Well, a very warm welcome to the next episode of Property Developers and Investors podcast. And today I'm going to start with a very different introduction because we've got an extraordinary guest, very special, and I know you're going to love this episode. I want to read just a short excerpt from the back of this gentleman's book. At the age of 23, this gentleman returned for a brutal tour of Iraq. A devoted British soldier, he had risked life and limb at the infamous Battle of Danny Boy, leading a charge across open ground. His outstanding bravery earned him the Military Cross. Brian came home a hero, but his fight for his life was about to begin, this time for his good name, when the world was shattered by false and public allegations of wartime atrocities. And then he goes on to describe the book. So without any further ado, really want to welcome and say thanks for your time, Mr. Brian Wood. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it, Mark.
So it's a pleasure. And I know you inspired several hundred people when you presented our Brooklands event a few months ago. And it's been long awaited having you on our podcast. So, Brian, I first came across you probably almost a year ago now. I live in a village called Elstead in Surrey, and you were doing the most amazing, crazy challenge of running, I think it was 25 marathons in 25 days, and you posted that you were running through our village. That shows me a lot about the character of somebody that can actually do that. So maybe we could start there as to what your drivers were in achieving such a crazy feat.
Yeah, so I spent 17 years as a frontline soldier, and throughout that 17 years, I went operational a number of times, and I've seen from firsthand what our armed forces deliver, the capability, the delivery, the camaraderie, and also the realities of war is, unfortunately, people get hurt and then worst case killed in action. And I've always been one to try and give something back. And last year I decided to do the challenge, which was called the Ultimate Sacrifice, for those who give everything for what we stand for today and allow us to have this conversation. And I wanted to remember in a unique way, and I pledged to run 1 mile for each life that was lost during the Iraq and Afghanistan campaign, and no less than 26 lives that I was going to remember per day, which was 26 miles each day, but I rounded it up to a full marathon, which is 0.2, and just committed to it. And yeah, I got on the start line on the 1st of November, because November is a very poignant month for us with Remembrance and Armistice Day, and I just wanted to do something unique because it was a very special challenge. One was very serious and close to my heart, and I knew I was going to give everything that I had and more, and yeah, just got amongst it. And a lot of it was mental capability. Physically, you can do a lot physically, but you're kind of, sometimes people are overshadowed with what they think they can do because of your mental state. And I'm quite resilient with my mentality, and I knew I was going to be in some dark places, which I was, some very dark places. It reduced me to tears sometimes because of the pain that I was in, but I was prepared to go into some dark spaces and into the red zone. And I was kind of in them from marathon 3 really, until my body started to adjust. And it did, I think, probably on marathon 14 to 15, where I started to run without pain. I think my body just got used to me going out each day and getting it done. And actually on day 19, I run my fastest marathon, which is like 3 hours and 41 minutes, I think it was. So yeah, it was an incredible journey, and I raised just short of £170,000 for Walking with the Wounded. And it's a very close charity to me. I'm a patron of it, and I've seen the incredible work that they do to help former servicemen and women who are struggling, whether it's physically or mentally. Gives them a capability of employment, to go into some mental health sessions, and to grow them individuals into what they deserve, and give them, I wouldn't say another start in life, but it will help them in education, or to grow them as people, because they do deserve it for the sacrifices that they're willing to put on the line. I mean, this is going off beat slightly from the challenge, but we all saw the incredible spine-tingling performance of our armed forces during Her Majesty, state funeral. Impeccable. These are just ordinary people that volunteer their service to this country, and some flew back from Iraq to come, and the guards who were involved, they flew back and didn't have an incredibly amount of huge time to get it done, but it's testament to the armed forces. And I'm an advocate for the armed forces, and
incredible.
So I wanted to give something back.
Oh, and you've done that in bucket loads. I mean, the mindset. We'll maybe touch on some of your incredible military career in a short while, but I'm guessing mindset has been something that has just been honed over many years. How important was, during those low moments where maybe your body just wanted to crawl under a hedge and go to sleep, how was the context of the why, that vision of those 650 odd men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice? How important was that context in your mind as you were doing the event?
Yeah, each mile we would read the name out who I remember, and that continued throughout the journey. And it was, when you commit to such a challenge, it was always greater than me. It was always greater than Brian Wood. I was just the one who was going to run. I was representing and remembering, those who give everything, but then for their families as well, who would then message me. And that'll be a great help, because I'll be getting messages from sons, daughters, widows, grandparents, to say, look, thank you so much for, remembering our son, or can I come out and run with you? Like, I had mums join me who had lost their son, during this whole journey. And that was what it was all about. It was messages like that got me out of bed in the morning, or helped me. I was always going to get out of bed. I was always going to get on the start line, but it helped me, because I've always said the challenge was always bigger than Brian Wood. I was just the one that was prepared to put my body through such endurance to remember every single person I set out to remember. Failure was not an option. It was, I took my sort of mindset and my headspace was, I took every mile as it came. Never looked at the challenge as a whole. It was each mile, and then each day. And then I'll get up the next day and do the same. Focus on each mile, and then just continued throughout. It was a long journey, and I've just signed up actually to go again. But I'm going to be doing more. So it'd be the ultimate sacrifice again. And last year I remember those who never made it home from Iraq and Afghanistan, and because it's the 40th years of the Falklands, I'm going to bring on those who never made it home from the Falklands as well. So it's going to be 35 marathons in 35 days-ish, because, and this is quite an exclusive really for you, it looks like I might be going out to the Falklands to run out there in remembrance for those who didn't make it home from the Falklands. So really poignant. And then I'm going to have to figure out logistics wise, because flying times, it's quite a long, and we've got to stop off at the Ascension Islands, which I'll probably get off the aircraft and then run a marathon on the Ascension Islands before we get back on, and then go over to the Falklands. So there's a few logistical stuff that we need to get right. So it may not be 35 in 35 days because of travel. So I'm going to have to kind of see what that means and what that entails. But I wouldn't say I'm like massively looking forward to it because of the pain that I know I'm going to be in. But, you know, if I can just raise, you know, a small amount of money, because I know that we're all in tough times at the moment, it would mean the world to me. So that's what I'm going out there just to do something. I have to do something.
It's that higher purpose is just awe-inspiring, Brian. It really is. And it was linking up with you and, you know, seeing your journey. And I followed you through all those 20 odd days in November when you did that first challenge. And I thought, you know, incredible achievement, incredible mindset, but that was kind of only the start. When I started to get to know you more, and we'll come on to your book and various things later, I started to understand, you know, a very different person and some incredible context here from your personal experiences. And I'm in awe at how anybody can overcome what you've had to achieve. So could we maybe visit your military career? You're in Iraq, you're age 23, and you're involved in some pretty horrific events there that had to be done. Could you just take us through that day of the Battle of Danny Boy?
Yeah, I mean, it was a day like, you know, every other day when I was out there. It was very hostile. We was always hyper vigilant because of the atmospherics and what was going on prior to Danny Boy. And yeah, I was on a vehicle checkpoint where I was told that there's been an incident, stop what I was doing and go into the vehicle. I got into the vehicle, got on the radio or the intercom, spoke to my commander, and he said that there's been an incident and 2 soldiers for the Argyle and Southern Highlanders have become casualties, and our mission then was to go and extract these casualties because one was bleeding out, and the golden hour for us is really important to fulfill, because from point of contact or from point of injury to then getting them to some sort of trauma unit is 1 hour. That's why we call it the golden hour. So we're off down Route 6, which is a vulnerable road that goes from Basra to Baghdad. We were kind of in the middle at Al-Amara, and on the way down there to extract these two, we were hit by an ambush, overwhelming ambush. We come to a halt. My vehicle then to exchange gunfire, and yeah, from that, my vehicle wasn't having the effect that it wanted. So then an order was given to me and my fellow dismounts in the back of the vehicle to get out and counter this trench position that probably had about 15 to 20 militia at the time. That's what was identified. There's only 3 of us at this time, and yeah, going to counter what was suppressing us. And it was a big ask at the time. I think like 23, having that pressure on your shoulders. You have to kind of deal with a lot. Fear being huge, which can potentially overwhelm you and make some poor decisions if you don't suppress it. It's infectious as well. So whatever I was going to do, you know, I was going to influence the others who were looking at me for some reassurance, a bit of clarity and a bit of empowerment, even though I was only 23 and I knew that. So, you know, I was calm in chaos. I spoke to the guys with calmness and told them what we're going to do. Once that door opens, we're going to go to a holding position, because I was disorientated in the back of the vehicle and I just needed to get I need to get an idea where this trench was. And and then we'll take it from there, really. And then the countdown from 5 seconds to 1 felt like an eternity. The door started to open and it was just so bright. And our first phase was to get to this holding position, which we did. And it was so noisy because in the back of a vehicle it's muffled, but as soon as it opens up, it's so noisy. And I was at that point, I could then identify this position, which was about 110, 120 meters from where we were. And I'm just seeing the exchange of like tracer fire, where the ammunition light up. And it was just an exchange between our vehicle and this trench. And we were then joined by 2 other guys randomly. British soldiers turned up. Now we've got 5 of us in this holding position, and we all agreed to go over the top like the greatest generation during the World War. And that's what we did. You know, we bounded forward, probably expecting us to be casualties, or if not, be killed. But it was what we're willing to do to achieve our mission, which was to close and destroy the militia fighters who were trying to kill us. And we got closer and closer. And then there was a lot of trauma that I started to see with enemy who were killed, and some of the enemy had been hit by such high velocity of ammunition. It was like, it was bad. And we managed to, against all odds, take this big stronghold. There was a lot of militia fighters who threw down their weapons and then became prisoner of war, and there was a lot of confusion. What was going on at the time, people looking at me to make these decisions, and it was just like mad, really. So much was going on. At one point, I just had to kind of slow the situation down and compose myself and start prioritising clearing their weapons away from them and moving the enemy dead away from the POWs, and just kind of get everything back in some sort of order. But it was difficult. And then once we did that, I started to kind of come down from this super adrenaline and started to drink some water. And then my company sergeant major turned up, who was my sort of big boss, and asked me if the battlefield was clear. And on the approach to this position, I saw militia fighters fall back, so I knew that the position wasn't clear, and the battle space wasn't clear. So it's a big integrity question for me, really, because I was lucky to be alive at this point, and I wanted to say to him it was clear, but because of my values, I was like, it's not clear. So my company sergeant major and I went forward again, and then become decisively engaged within 100 meters away from this main position. And it was all close quarter fighting, really close. And I had a bit of moral courage. I said to him, look, we need to go back. And he agreed. And then on the way back, I see a flicker of movement, turned around with my weapon to bear. And there was 2 more militia fighters who threw their weapons down. So it was just like proper chaos. And then we took them as prisoner of war. The guy who I then picked up was one of the Iraqi policemen that we were mentoring. So I had been massively betrayed by someone who we were trying to teach, our training practices to take over their own country and be able to, control it, basically. But you just don't know who you're giving your time to, and it's just unfortunate. And kind of after that, we then in time went back to the camp. We had more issues because of our vehicle back door wouldn't open, and someone had to crawl through the back over the bodies, and it was just like constant trauma after trauma after trauma. And that tour really in Iraq didn't ease up. It was madness and chaotic from once we flew in and took over to the end. And definitely had a lasting impact on me mentally, for sure, because anyone exposed to that much trauma. And also that was just the Battle of Dannyboy. We haven't got time to talk about the others, but it's in the book. The other big key battles that I was involved in, Dannyboy was just a significant battle because of it was trench warfare, it was close quarter fighting, it was hand-to-hand fighting, and it hasn't been done since, you know, the Falklands, maybe, World Wars. So there was a keen interest, but also there was a keen interest in it because of what happened years later with the allegations headed up by the defunct Phil Shiner, who is now actually on trial himself, but accused us, British soldiers, for murder, mutilation and mistreatment in 2009.
Before we touch on that, I'd just like to take you back to your descriptions, a so powerful description of, you know, heading out of that tin box, a door opening, that wall of light and sound. And you know, I'm thinking that emotion, the fear, the adrenaline you mentioned. But right from the start, you said making sure that doesn't affect sound decision making. So when you're on the charge or moving forward in with your squad, being able to switch on to the aggression, but also turn the aggression off when, you know, some of the enemy threw down their weapons. I mean, that must be incredible training that's instilled in you.
It is, for sure, but sometimes, you know, you can get it wrong. And I understand that, because when you're fighting for your life and you're fighting for the guys left and right of you, someone who's been such an aggressive action against you, it's definitely hard to get it right. But we did, you know, we still understand rules of engagement, we understand rule of law, and we're educated on it. But when you're in that moment to survive and to fight against this aggressive action, sometimes you can get it wrong, but we never did. And, you know, I think there's a lot of it is reaction, clear direction, and just trying to be sort of the best leader that you can be in time of, you know, real pressure. You know, I didn't really do any sort of battlefield courses at this point. I wasn't a senior leader. I was a real junior leader at 23, and it was in kind of the most extreme leadership scenarios that there ever will be. Or, you know, and a lot of people within the conflicts within Afghanistan understand that at such a young age. People talk about pressure, people talk about decision making, people talk about executing plans. You know, these military personnel were doing it at 18, 19 and 20, and yeah, older clearly. And they were executing plans which is life and death. This is not going to lose, you know, a deal. This wasn't going to lose a tender, a pitch, an asset. This is life. If you got it wrong, it's life. And or there's casualties, which just then the implications of that is another complete different chain of events with the whole Kazibak procedure and how to deal with that to get someone off the battlefield under so much pressure. So that's why I've got so much admiration for those who are in the military and in places of authority or, you know, or leadership, whether it's young or old, because, you know, there is an expectation to grow up instantly when you're away. You've got to. And that's what's given me the tools really that I use today. And
you're very humble in how you explain this. But others around you weren't quite so, and recognised you, and you went to see the Queen to receive an award. Would you?
Yeah.
And probably some of the context here, which I understand you come from a military family with your father, and I think your son's just passed P Company. I saw.
Yeah, for the parachute regiment. I mean, what an achievement at his age, 18 years old, to pass such an arduous course at such a young age. I mean, I don't think I'll be able to have done it at his age. So that's real testament to his drive, his courage, his determination, his selfless acts to volunteer his service for this great nation. You know, there's some incredible values that he, it's his journey. He wants to do it. And it's just brilliant that he's doing it with real desire and hunger. And he's carving his own path. He could have chosen to go into the same regiment as me, but he wants to go a completely different way, which I'm massively proud of him, really am, because I know how hard he's worked for it. And good on him. But no, it's listen, we talk about being humble. I'm just an ordinary guy from a small village that has been on a bit of a journey, has affected me, has affected the family, but then I grew, never played victim, never ever played victim. What was thrown at me, I just had to acknowledge, and I had to try and find a way out to grow from what I was experiencing, and it was tough.
There were those that were prepared to go out of their way to cast aspersions, unfair aspersions, and that's the unfairness of life. So you came back to this country. I mean, you're a hero. You got a military cross.
Yeah.
You had your meeting with the Queen. I mean, incredible. And then something changed. Tell us about that, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, 1 minute, I was going into Buckingham Palace and the Queen was rewarding me for my actions during the Battle of Danny Boy and other incidences that I was involved in. And then 5 years later, have kind of my name in pure lights all over the media, all over the news. Panorama had run something called On Whose Orders, which made us out to be barbaric murderers, like horrendous. And then the press got hold of it, and it was just hard yards. Talk about pressure. This was pressure, but this was different types of pressure because I didn't understand it. I was on home soil, which I didn't think this would even, be a consideration. But it was, and it was real, and I had to kind of figure it out. But I went to seek some support for legacy trauma stuff and for the pressure that I was under with, it was called the Al-Sweady Inquiry, and it was headed up by a public interest lawyer called Phil Shiner, who it's so much corruption, paying bungs of money to Iraqi agents to come up with different types of claims on innocent farmers being murdered, on just going about their normal daily business, taken back, being mutilated, being mistreated, and it just grew arms and legs. And I couldn't understand how, because there was no real evidence. It was just pushing the system, bleeding the system for money, but also to the point of killing us, really, mentally destroyed us. Ruined careers. I'd done 17 years. If it wasn't for that, I would have continued my military service. It fueled drink with other people who were with me that day. It fueled habits. People want to take the pain away because it was hard work. And it went on for a further 5 years, and to the point that I was in the courtroom and on the stand and delivering my testimony, and just couldn't understand how it even got this far. It was, not good. But I don't
five years. That is an incredibly long period of time to be under such intense scrutiny and pressure.
Yeah. So 2009, that's when Panorama ran their program. The end of 2014 was when it was all acquitted, and it was deliberate lies, reckless speculation, and ingrained hostility from Phil Shiner. But it was a decade of a roller coaster like no other. It affected us. It affected my loved ones. I'm fortunate still to be in a really good position now, and really doing cool things with my family. But for others, it wasn't like that. They went, found it really, really, really tough. I found it really hard. but everyone handles things differently, clearly. But yeah.
I guess that the training you mentioned earlier on in this podcast episode, where the ability to switch on and switch off, life-changing events where lives are at stake. Many struggle to adjust exiting military life into civvy street just on a normal basis, if that makes sense. But you had to handle this transition whilst this 5 years inquiry was hanging over your head. How did that take, if it's not too much of a personal question, how did that take its toll? You speak quite openly about mental health issues of ex-servicemen and women and others, and help many. What are your observations on that?
Which had to create dialogue. For years I kind of hid a lot of things away, but at this point in 2009-10, I had to be braver than I was on the battlefield, and that meant for me to open up about some legacy things that were playing on my mind, whether it's on the battlefield and the pressure of the inquiry, and not having a toolkit available to suppress different emotions, how I was feeling. And for me, it was creating dialogue and speaking about it and talking about, the legacy traumatic events I was involved in, talking about the pressures that I was under with press outside my house, or what the newspapers were printing, and so on and so forth, and getting a lot off my chest, but then also receiving some incredible advice that I could then put in this toolkit to support me as I moved forwards. Because I said earlier on, I would never ever play victim to what's going on. I wouldn't allow myself to do that. It's all about acknowledging what you're under, whatever pressure that you're under. Definitely acknowledge it, be brave enough to talk about it, and then let's figure out a way to recover, a way forward, and to show up and attack the day with a real purpose. Find something, whether it's for me it's fitness, or something that will make you tick, and take each day as it comes, like I did the marathons. Just take each day. Every day is different. Take each day different, but attack it. And that's what I did.
And out of those dark days, you found that purpose, not only in the last year's challenge and the challenge that's about to unfurl in front of you, but also you've found a purpose through your business to give back and support others and inspire others. And so tell us a bit about your brand and how that's going for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been one for lounge and fitness wear, and with everything that was going in my life at that point as well, that I just wanted to do something completely left and right of what I was doing within the military and within London in the corporate world. I just thought I could really make an impact with my brand, which is Keep Attacking. So I didn't have any money, but I had a vision, but like I said, no cash. And it was to create this mantra that can support, inspire, empower others who are going through some real tricky times. Because listen, we're all going through them. Doesn't matter who you are. If you haven't been through adversity now, unfortunately, the way life is, you will go through adversity at some point in your life, whether it's loss of a loved one, whether it's, you're diagnosed with something, you're feeling it tough with business, you want to be the best that you want to be within sport or business. It's down to you. Only you can make that happen, because nothing is handed out in this world. So I knew that for what I went through. And what really got me through was this mantra, and I said it earlier on, about keep attacking each day. Acknowledge, reconfigure, and go on the offensive to try and grow and get out of what you're going through and be a better person for it. So I got a few bits of clothing, tried and tested them for men and women, and then I was really happy with what I had. I had this incredible logo, which had a subliminal meaning with a mantra, one that is very unique and personal to the individual, because every journey is different. But it had a true meaning. And I launched it on a 2-week pre-order, and it just went absolutely wild. I couldn't believe it. Like, I was in this kitchen. This was our like processing hub. My upstairs was all racked out with the clothing. I was under more pressure in this kitchen than I was on the battlefield, honestly, because I'm not a businessman. I don't even claim to be some sort of businessman or an entrepreneur. I can't even spell that word. But what I've got is heart, passion, and a vision, and I just try. And that's where it's at. So I was like, all of this was going on. I was on my own. Lucy was kind of working her day job at her place of work, and I was trying to deal with all of this, and I was getting so much wrong. I was missing orders. I was duplicating orders. I was sending orders out in the wrong packaging. I was sending wrong sizes. It was just wild. But I knew I had something really special because people could relate to it. People go through grief. People go through therapy. People try and be the best that they can be. But to do that, you have to attack whatever sector you're in. You have to go and want it desperately to succeed. So they bought into this like sort of mantra, and like I said, it just grew and grew and grew. And then after 6 months of operating out of this kitchen, I knew we had something really, really good. And then I went and got some space up the road from here, my office space, and also to store all of our kit. And I also wanted to go into the fitness side of it, because physical health is just as important as mental health. And I believe if you look after your physical health, it in turn will support your mental health for sure. With the endorphins, with feeling good about yourself, sense of achievement, all of that is through the physical side, which will help you. So I wanted to put something on, and I'm very fortunate to have some military land dotted around us here. So I reached out to the MOD and said, look, can I use the land? And it was just an epic trying to get everything signed off, but we did. And we launched our Keep Attacking events, 4.5 miler or a 9 miler. And it was, well, you've done it.
Yeah.
Through mud, through hills, on sand, but it's not about coming first. That doesn't really impress me. It's about just showing up and committing to a challenge and just trying to do it, figuring out what.
And how they showed up as well. And I was there for your inaugural event, and we were all covered in mud, and they were all shapes and sizes, creeds and colours racing together. And every single one of them, every single one of us had a smile on our face. It was an incredible day. And that personal achievement, there was the racing snake who,
that's right,
an incredible time. But the people who came in an hour and a half later, just as great an achievement, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. And they were given, the prize for through adversity, because that's what they were going through. They were really going through some tough times. And, that's more important to me than first and second. I mean, that's what it's all about. And that's grown this like real community of keep attackers, really. Like it's a bit of, I wouldn't say it's a cult, it's a community of like-minded people who have been through some challenges within their life, who get it, who understand what we are and what we do. And even if it's just repping the logo on your arm or putting your t-shirt on as a bit of armor, you don't even have to go out of the house. It's if you're struggling with anxiety to even get out, putting on a bit of armor where you're like, I'm going to try and attack this day. First stage is I'm going to put on a bit of armor. They put on that keep attacking mentality clothing, which is like giving them a bit more confidence. And then the next day they could be outside the door, repping their t-shirt, understanding what it's about, and then just taking some baby steps, but they're going forward. They're on the offensive with what they're up to and what they're going through. So that's kind of, where it was kind of generated. And now we're in team. Yeah, now we're in teamwear. So we're also looking after equestrian teams on their horse polo and horse riding teams. We're doing a lot of football teams because we do the whole design and then execution of their kits. We take them through a bit of a journey, and it's because it's only small. The customer service is what we really pride ourselves on. So we want to feel people that they're involved in this journey, and we send them out the drawings, we send them out the designs, and then they want to tweak a few things here, there, and we do that. We tweak it, and then we go to production, and then they get, their teamwear kits. Golf, we've been doing a lot, clearly because of the summer it's coming to an end now, but we've done a lot of the golf stuff. And military is a big area where I'm focusing on at the moment, which is brilliant, and such a great mantra for everyone, to achieve, and it's good. It's really exciting.
So you openly acknowledge you don't come from a business background, but to create a business that you're incredibly passionate about, you strike me as somebody who's not afraid to, you don't want to make mistakes, but you're not afraid of halting progress for the sake of, a few mistakes. You don't seem to suffer from procrastination. You've learned a lot of lessons in business over the last year or so then.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, and I really take my hat off to those people in business and those people who have started their own business, and those people with like some visionary mindset and really good goals, because it's tough. It's definitely tough, but it's so rewarding as well. I mean, I can do this because I run the business. I can have the pleasure to say, right, I'll manage my diary, talk to you. But then what people don't see is 10 o'clock at night, me going through orders, going through different aspects of the business, correcting stuff, keeping the website up to date, trying to blog on things. That's what it's like. But that's why I'm passionate about it, and why I would say, probably in business, but I don't class myself as some powerhouse. I mean, maybe one day, who knows? But
well, when you're creating the impact you do, and I mentioned this to you just before we went on air, but I'll mention it to the listeners now. My wife and I, we were shopping for sofas in Guildford at the weekend, and I was wearing one of your hoodies with the Keep Attacking logo on, and a gentleman stopped me, and he said, "Where'd you get the top from? Do you know Woody?" I said, "Yeah, I do." Incredible guy. And he said, I can't begin to tell you how the influence and the inspiration has affected me. He was, I think, ex-parachute regiment, and he'd had some challenges leaving the armed forces, some mental health issues, and he was very open. So that camaraderie just over a hoodie created an engagement there. But your inspiration is so deep, and it helps so many people. I do want to ask you one question. It's a question I ask everybody who comes on the podcast. Given what you know now, and bearing in mind I ask this to people from an eclectic array of backgrounds, given what you know now, if you had a quiet word with your teenage self, what advice would you give yourself?
Understand values and what they mean. Be kind to others, and don't be scared of failure.
Brilliant. Well, I'm sure everybody's been inspired by this episode. I've got a copy here of Brian's book, Double Crossed, and Brian's got a copy there as well. And in fact, Brian, hold up your top there, because you've got a relationship there with Amazon as well.
Yeah, do you know what? I do a collaboration with Amazon. So they've got a massive military network within Amazon, because fair play to Amazon, who are probably the biggest brand in the world, have cottoned on to those who leave the military with some incredible skill sets to come into their warehouse or their their sort of logistical chains and so on and so forth. So they've got a huge, thousands of ex-service men and women, and they reached out to me and said, look, can you be our sort of collaboration clothing partner for our Amazon military network? And I was like, amazing. So yeah, this hoodie is kind of, we do like, because Amazon, this is obviously British, but there's like French we did for, which was pretty tough because of Brexit. Actually trying to get the clothing over there was really tough, but we managed it. Australia, America, so it's been flying out everywhere. But I'm really proud of this collaboration, and that's our logo there on the arm to sort of be involved in the collab. So
keep attacking.
It's great. And
you mentioned ex-service men and women there. I used to put fiber optic networks and data centers in brand new countries, and the most reliable source of fantastic people who we could put boots on the ground with a high degree of discipline, but the innovation to get complex stuff done in a different environment came from a whole array of military background. They were absolutely brilliant at that advanced party, getting in there. So I can absolutely see what you're talking about, and how Amazon have identified that as a fantastic skill set.
Yeah, I mean, they just need clear direction, mission command, because that's all that they've been used to. It's an institution within the military, and we all buy from our main efforts, our missions, and our values. And as long as we have that, that's why I think a lot of military personnel struggle when they leave this institution, being the military, is because they don't have that clarity, they don't have that clear direction, they don't have mission statements. It's difficult then for them to kind of find it if they're on their own, because they've been so used to working within a team and to these mission statements, and it's hard, but you can find it. You've just got to do a bit of soul searching, understand what's your passion, who you are as an individual, because you have to re-identify yourself, because you lose your identity when you come away from the military. But you can re-identify with yourself and be very successful out here. But it's up to you, and you have to keep attacking.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Brian, there's going to be so many people who have been inspired. They can get your book on Amazon.
Yeah, books on Amazon, or there's signed copies actually on my website, www.keepattacking.co.uk, with the merchandise is on there as well, the clothing. And you can obviously follow us on social media, keep.attacking, or my own personal social media is Brian Wood MC, or at Brian Wood MC on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Everywhere else.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Every time we meet, you inspire me. You'll inspire so many people with the outreach of this podcast. So on behalf of a grateful nation, and thank you so much for your service. Thank you, Brian Wood.
No, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.